Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this day and just thank you for all you do for us. Pray that you give us guidance and wisdom tonight as we do the business of this city. We just thank you for this city and the favor you're showing us, Lord. Just continue to guide and direct us in all we do and say. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated.
This time we'll move on to proclamations. This evening we have a proclamation for the Ronald McDonald House. At this time I'll go ahead and read the proclamation. Whereas Springfield's 2 Ronald McDonald House programs have provided a home away from home and an invaluable source of hope and comfort for families of seriously ill and injured children who must travel far from home for medical treatment. And whereas the 2 Ronald McDonald Houses located in Springfield, Missouri, allow their guests to maintain close contact with their seriously ill children by providing a secure and supportive environment at no required cost. Whereas the Ronald McDonald House near Cox South and the House at Mercy Kids have served the needs of 830 Greene County families, 84 of which are residents of Republic, Missouri. And whereas on Tuesday, February the 2nd, 2021, 62 McDonald's restaurants and various other locations will begin showing their support by asking customers to share their heart by adopting a $1, $5, and $20 to Ronald McDonald House charities of the Ozarks through the Share the Heart campaign. And whereas the following generous contributions have provided sponsorship funding and underwritten the cost of the Share Your Heart campaign: McDonald's of the Ozarks, Great Southern Bank, Mid-Am Metal Forming, and KY3 Television. And whereas McDonald's of Republic is a participant in the Share a Heart campaign, which will continue through February 28, 2021. Now therefore, Mayor of City of Republic, Matt Russell, in the state of Missouri, does hereby proclaim February 8th through February 14th, 2021 as Ronald McDonald House Week. There's no one here this evening from the Ronald McDonald House to accept this, and so just kind of read that in symbolic form. This time, I'll turn the meeting back to the mayor.
Thank you. I'm very, very, very sorry for being late. First of all, thank you, Eric, for filling in. Secondly, I will update you. It was a tie. I don't know if this is American, why we end ball games on ties. It was a tie 15-15. I have the stats. I'll share it with you after the game. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. Why are you calling another timeout? All right. So again, I apologize. Thank you, Eric. All right, here we go. We are opening it up for citizen participation. Anyone here wanting to speak to something not on the agenda, please approach the podium and we will give you 5 minutes to speak about something that is not on the agenda. Do we have any citizens here wishing to speak? All right, seeing none, I'm going to close it to citizen participation and move on to the consent agenda. I need a motion and a second for the approval of the consent agenda.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 8-0. Moving on to the boards, commissions, and committee schedules, I noticed that the Board of Adjustments meeting and the Planning and Zoning meeting are both canceled. We do have City Council on February 16th and again on March 2nd, 2021. Moving on to old business and tabled items, I need a motion and a second for the second reading of Bill 21-04 by title only.
Motion. Second.
We've got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 8-0. Madam Clerk.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, holding an employee.
Now, we had a presentation last time to council, and hopefully the council had a chance to speak with staff if they had any questions. Do we have any questions or discussion before moving on tonight? Seeing none, I now need a motion and a second for final passage of Bill 21-04.
Motion.
We have a motion and a second. We're going to now take a roll call vote. We're going to do that on the computers. So I hope everybody signed in. I did before I went to the game. Click refresh, cast your vote, hit submit, and we will wait. Motion carries 8-0. Moving on to item number 4 on the agenda, I need a motion and a second for the second reading of Bill 21-05 by title only.
Motion.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 8-0. Madam Clerk.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, approving the collective bargaining agreement between the city and the Southern Missouri Professional Firefighters Local 152, the bargaining unit of the Republic Fire Department, and authorizing the city administrator to execute the same on behalf of the city.
Thank you, ma'am. We had a presentation by staff last time. Do we have any updates or discussion from staff? Any questions from council?
I just want to say it was nice to hear from the gentleman last week. Things were seamless and easy to deal with, and so on council, on behalf of towards Dave or whoever was in the dealing of that negotiation, for making it easy on both sides. So.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Anybody else? Seeing nothing else, I need a motion and a second for a final passage of 21-05.
Motion.
We have a motion and a second. We are now going to take a roll call vote on our computers. Please click refresh, cast your vote, hit submit vote, and we will wait. Excellent. Motion carries 8-0. Moving right along. Item number 5 on our agenda, I need a motion and a second for the second reading of Bill 21-06 by title only.
Motion.
Second.
We got a motion in a couple of seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 8-0. Madam Clerk.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, approving and amending the zoning code and official map by changing the classification of approximately 3.55 acres from two-family residential R2 to 3.3 acres of two-family residential R2, and approximately 8.19 acres from multifamily residential R3 to 8.5 acres of multifamily residential R3, located at 634 West Hines.
Thank you, ma'am. Staff presented last time on this, and hopefully you had a chance to get with staff. Does anyone have any updates from staff about this issue? No updates. Any questions from council? Seeing none, I now need a motion and a second for final passage of Bill 21-06.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and second. We are now going to take a roll call vote. So click refresh, cast your vote, hit submit vote. I'm going to wait for the clicking to stop. Motion carries 8-0. Moving on to item number 6 on the agenda, I need a motion and a second for the second reading of Bill 21-07 by title only.
Motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 8-0. Madam Clerk.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, approving and amending the zoning code and official map by changing the classification of approximately 0.22 acres from agricultural AG and 18.97 acres from general commercial C2, located northeast of the northeastern right-of-way line of Missouri State Route 360 to light industrial M1.
Thank you, ma'am. We had a presentation last time by staff. Is there any updates from staff? Seeing none, any questions or comments from council on this issue? Excellent. Then I need a motion and a second for a final passage of Bill 21-07.
Motion.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in, oh, wait, sorry. Roll call vote. On our computers, please click refresh. Cast your vote. Don't forget to hit submit. And be patient. Motion carries 8-0. We're getting good at this, folks. All right. Let's see. That was 7, right? Was it? We're moving on to 7. Moving on to item number 7 on our agenda, I need a motion and a second for the second reading of Bill 21-08 by title only.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, two of the quietest motions we've got. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 8-0. Madam Clerk.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, approving and amending the zoning code and official map by changing the classification of approximately 0.29 acres located at 2860 North Brookline Avenue to local commercial C1.
Thank you, ma'am. We did have a presentation at the last meeting. Any updates by staff? Head shake no. Any questions or comments from council? Seeing none, we will proceed to a roll call vote on our computers, and we're going to find out if I jinxed us by mentioning how well we were doing. So we're going to click refresh. It's all right. No, good. Cast your vote, and don't forget to hit submit vote. Motion carries 8-0. Moving on to item number 8 on our agenda, I need a motion and a second for the second reading of Bill 21-09 by title only.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 8-0. Madam Clerk.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, approving a special use permit to operate a cleaning services office in a residential zoning district located at 621 North Walnut Avenue to Jennifer Wood.
Thank you, ma'am. We had a presentation from staff. I don't see Mr. Tabor here. Are there, maybe he's behind the podium. Oh, any updates from staff? Excellent. Any questions or comments or concerns from council before proceeding to a vote? Seeing none, I need a motion and a second for the final passage of Bill 21-09.
Motion.
We've got a motion and a second. We will now take a roll call vote on our computers. Please click refresh, cast your vote, and don't forget to hit submit vote. Motion carries 8-0. Moving on to new business, I need a motion and a second for the first reading of Bill 21-10 by title only.
Motion.
Second.
I think we've got 2 motions in 2 seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 8-0. Madam Clerk.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, authorizing the city administrator to enter into an infrastructure development agreement with Turner Residential Holdings, LLC, for infrastructure for Phase 1 of Oak Hills residential subdivision.
Excellent. Thank you, ma'am. We have Ms. Haynes here to give us an overview of what's going on.
Thank you, Mayor. The developers agreement that you have before you tonight is for the deferred construction of a 10-inch water line and Leon Avenue during the construction of Phase 1 of Oak Hill Heights, or Oak Hill subdivision. Phase 1 on the screen before you is indicated or shaded in green. Leon Avenue is shaded in yellow, and then the water line that I'm speaking of is in blue along the farm road. The approved preliminary plat for Oak Hill requires the extension of the 10-inch water main parallel to the West Farm Road 170 and the construction of Leon Avenue. The developer is requesting deferment of both infrastructure improvements proportional to the number of lots in Phase 1 of the development. Phase 1 consists of 135 residential lots or the subdivision consists of 135 residential lots. Phase 1 is actually just 27, which equals 20% of the total development. The estimated cost of construction of the water main extension is $87,000. The estimated cost of construction of Leon Avenue is a little over $665,000. The developer's agreement financially secures 20% of the cost of construction of Leon Avenue, equal to approximately $133,134 for a period of 4 years. The construction of Phase 1 actually requires the extension of the water main more than 20%. So we're not requiring any type of deferred or in lieu of payment for that. The developer must construct the required improvements or enter into a new developer's agreement with the city prior to the issuance of any additional permits for subsequent phases of development. We have reviewed the developer's agreement. We are requesting approval.
Thank you, ma'am. Do we have questions from council? Seeing none, do we have any citizens here wishing to speak on this issue? Seeing none, please remember this is a first read, so if you have any questions, please get with staff. Thank you, ma'am. Moving on to other business. This is item number 10 on the agenda. This is 21-R-02, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, selecting the vendor and authorizing the city administrator to enter into an agreement for the fireworks display for the annual Have a Blast Patriotic Celebration. You sure you have to? Got the pen ready. Excellent. I need a motion and a second to take up resolution 21-R-02.
Motion.
We've got a motion and a second. Thank you very much. Ms. Mayfield is here to give us an overview.
Yes. Good evening. So in early January, we sent out a formal request for qualifications to select a professional pyrotechnic firm to do the fireworks at Have a Blast. We had 2 companies respond to that RFQ, Gateway Fireworks out of St. Louis and Gladiator Pyro out of Poplar Bluff. After scoring those qualification submittals, we ultimately selected Gateway Fireworks. Gateway Fireworks has produced our pyro musical at Have a Blast for the past 2 years. They've done an amazing job, so we would like to move forward with Gateway Fireworks for Have a Blast. The 2021 event is coming up quickly. It's Friday, January 25th. So if approved tonight, we'll be working quickly to get a contract finalized with Gateway. In that contract, we will be including language to allow us the ability to renew that contract for up to 2 one-year periods. So we'll secure 2021, and then based on, obviously, our satisfaction with the show and the vendor, we'll have the opportunity to renew that contract again in 2022 and then again in 2023. The contract will also include not to exceed amounts for each year. I think they were maybe incorrect in the exhibit, but those amounts are $27,500 in 2021, $30,000 in 2022, pending renewal of the contract, and then $32,500 in 2023, pending renewal of the contract. Again, those are not to exceed limits. We're really looking forward to our relationship with Gateway. Like I said, they've done an amazing job for us the past 2 years. They've really elevated our firework game with the pyro musical and just an all-around fantastic show. And then Have a Blast in 2021. It's our 25th anniversary, tied in with the 150th anniversary of the City of Republic. So it's awesome that both of those things are happening in the same year, and it'll be an awesome event.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions or comments or discussion from council?
Mr. Mayor.
Sir.
Just a comment. I want to thank the staff and Scott for you guys pulling together a 3-year agreement. I love the concept of working with the vendor that way. I think it also speaks, when I think about this vendor over this last year and all the work they did with us to pull off that show on Labor Day, and the work that you all did to accomplish that, but also having a vendor that was willing to work with us, also as members only, and how that went off without a hitch. I think that speaks, like, this is a great partnership moving forward, even more so. So I think this is a great selection.
Thank you, sir. Any other discussion? As this is a resolution, we can move directly to a vote, so I'm going to call that vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 8-0. Moving on to item number 11 on our agenda, this is 21-R-03, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, selecting the vendor and authorizing the city administrator to enter into an agreement for the construction and installation of the city's gateway sign along Highway 60. Excellent, man, this is some good stuff. Need a motion and a second to take up resolution 21-R-03.
Motion.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second to take up resolution 21-R-03. You still there?
I'm here for this one as well.
Excellent. Educate us.
Yeah, so really excited to be presenting this tonight. So in late 2018, we issued a request for qualifications for design and formal plans for city gateway sign. From that, we selected Springfield Sign for the design work and planning for the sign. Since that time, we've been working closely with them to tweak designs and come up with new things that fit the old site that we originally had and then the new site that we've moved to now. The size of the sign was increased substantially when we were able to move to the new city utilities parcel. To have the desired impact on that bigger site, we needed a bigger sign. So we've gone big for sure. The sign, it's a massive sign. It's 27 feet tall by 32 feet wide. For a little bit of reference, that's about as tall as the front of the community center building here. As you can see from the design, it is earth tones with aluminum sheeting and construction. All LED lighting. There is a nighttime view as well. Stone veneer masonry work, and then an arched opening on the lower part of the sign to showcase our bronze tiger, which we do already have in our inventory. In December of 2020, we issued a formal IFB for construction and installation of the sign. Springfield Sign was the sole bidder for this, probably due to the fact that they had already been selected for design work. Their bid price for this sign was $233,750.50. The project is being funded through the Capital Improvement Sales Tax, which was passed by voters in August of 2017. As part of that initiative, $400,000 was promised to go toward the construction of a main city gateway sign, as well as some wayfinding signs. By not having to pay for the land, we were able to invest that money back into the scale and magnitude of this sign. The original site was going to be around $85,000 to secure that spot. So with the CU parcel for free, we were able to invest that money into the overall scope and create an awesome sign. If approved tonight, we'll be moving pretty quickly on this to get everything secured. There is a 90 to 120 day lead time for fabrication and construction. Our goal is to have it installed in late May or early June in time for Have a Blast. So everyone coming into the City of Republic will be greeted by this gateway sign. I can answer any questions you might have. Dave Schritty, I hope I pronounced that correctly, from Springfield Sign. We've been working very closely with him. He is here, so if you have any technical questions on the sign that maybe I cannot answer, he is here. We're thankful for him coming out this evening.
Do we have questions or discussion from council?
Question. On the sign or the property out there, is there going to be some kind of security fencing around so that, you know, people, vandals, whatever, couldn't get up to it?
Yeah, as of right now, we don't have any plans for security fencing. We can definitely look at it. But we do anticipate people, we are looking at the potential of a couple parking spaces so that people can actually pull in and step
okay.
out and, I mean, take a photo with the sign if they would like to. So I don't anticipate any security fencing. Hopefully it'll be well lit enough and right on 60 that we shouldn't have,
Okay.
hopefully, too many issues with that.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor.
Sir?
Just a few comments to Jennifer, to Dave with Springfield Sign and Jared and everybody to see you. Springfield Sign has done a masterful job on this project from day one. So I appreciate your patience with us because this is something we had to get right. And we worked very hard to secure the first site. We couldn't do it, and quite frankly, it actually worked out better. So I appreciate the fact that you gave us the first one. It was very good. I was excited about that. But this one here is like extremely to the level of what's going on in our community. And I think this is going to represent us better on a 3-acre site. So I appreciate all the staff, all the legal work, CU for participating with us, providing that for us for free of charge. Andrew, for everybody that worked with MoDOT to get the security to work on the leases, the access points, all that you have to comply with to make this happen. But to the voters that approved this, to have this kind of money, some would say it's an expensive sign, but it's a marker that identifies you're leaving one area, you're actually coming into the public. And I think that's something that's been missing for a long time. But I appreciate their trust with their money that we can put this together. I think our community is very proud. I appreciate all the work and the time that we did this right versus trying to get it done early or fast. Because people have asked me about it since the day it was passed in August of 2017. When are we going to get that thing done? When are we going to get that done? Well, it needed to be done right. If you're spending that kind of money, you have to have the right locations. So what's missing is going to be a little bit difficult. I look forward to seeing what the park staff will do like they do with all the other facilities. 3 acres is a lot to beautify and work with, but I think that they will do just like they do with everything else, and I think this is going to be an incredible project. So if you take the Gateway side, Andy's, and have a blast all about that same time, we're going to have a pretty good celebration. So great job. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Cameron. As this is a resolution, we can move directly to a vote, and that's what I will do. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 8-0. Moving on to the item number 12 on our agenda, 21-R-04, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, authorizing the city administrator to pursue annual appropriations financing for the purpose of financing capital improvements to address compliance-related issues and further growth in wastewater systems. I need a motion and a second to take up resolution 21-R-04.
Motion. Second.
A motion and a second. We have Mr. Nelson standing at the podium, but my little cheat sheet here says it's Mr. Cameron too, so.
Team effort.
Go for it, man.
I was just thinking I would have preferred to have been in front of all of that because that's pretty exciting. This,
Hard to follow.
yeah, maybe not so much. So this is our next step in the pathway to compliance for the wastewater plant, our master plan, and our capital improvements that we've been discussing. So with the tabling of the item regarding the SRF funding, the next obvious step is to get authorization to pursue annual appropriations financing, which basically gives us some flexibility to look at certificates of participation and special obligations funds. And we're still going to pursue that that total amount we've discussed in previous meetings of $36 million.
Thank you. Do you have anything to add?
I do, just briefly. So what we will do, should this pass tonight, there should be another resolution before you at the next council meeting. We're working with our environmental legal representation out of Kansas City. They are drafting the letter where we volunteer for the administrative order of consent. They'll prepare that. We'll take the attachment of, should this resolution pass, we'll attach that to the letter that we'll submit to DNR. We'll get permission through the resolution to submit a letter entering into an administrative order of consent. Will show that we actually have a financial plan that demonstrates good faith that we're moving towards it. So since we did not take up an issue of borrowing money from the state, we want to demonstrate that we are continuing to proceed and not just dragging our feet with this. So I think this is more for us just to demonstrate that we are moving towards a resolution. We will have it, or being aggressive with it, but that's kind of a two-step process we're taking here. We'll have another letter for you to review and approve by resolution or consider at the next meeting, but I appreciate your consideration.
Thank you. I know there are a lot of moving parts. Are there any questions from council or discussion from council before we move this resolution to a vote? All right, seeing none, I will call a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Resolution carries 8-0. Moving on to finance reports.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I sent out the December financial report before the last meeting, so I have not heard a lot of questions, so I will just proceed and keep this very brief. This is the December financial report. I went ahead and gave you a revised copy. There was a few final year-end journal entries that were done after the last draft was sent out. This is considered complete except for the final audit once the auditor comes. So, at the next meeting, we will present the January financials. Overall, for the first month, we'll start with January, though, the deposit for the sales tax. We are up 12.8 over January of 2019. So we started out the year very strong. We'll still remain optimistic and see how the year plays out. Sales tax does fluctuate depending on the month of the year. We approved at the 2020 budget amendment a couple transfers because, as you remember, we were ending the year very strong due to our hiring freezes, other COVID actions that we put into place in our financial sustainability plan. So part of the 2020 budget amendment, we approved the transfer of $436,000 to the street fund. We completed that transfer. In December, we also transferred another $365,000 from the street fund to the debt fund, and that was to pay off, set aside the future money for the Miller and Walmart payments, but it took it off the street books. And then we also transferred $40,000 out of the general fund to the SIST, and that's for this year's project of the public safety fencing. We had received a grant from Greene County, and that's the match on that perimeter fencing. Our cash accounts, looking at the general fund, we ended up in a strong position, even with those transfers, of unrestricted cash of $2,845,680. So if you look at that new financial policy and our 120 days operating cash, we ended out the year above our 120 days. And then if you include in the financial sustainability account, which we did not end up using, we're well above that even. So we still have that $1,034,000 sitting in that account should something happen as our rainy day reserve per se. In addition, we created 3 other reserve accounts that you'll now see on your cash report in December. This is one that I did add after I sent out your last copy, was the educational assistance benefit. Going forward in the 2021 budget, we decided to, instead of budgeting for tuition assistance for our employees out of different funds, we would just create this pot. So that was moved there. We also moved $20,000 to police and $20,000 to fire to their reserve accounts for equipment they did not end up purchasing by the end of last year that they'll purchase later. And then, of course, we received a check from part of that CFRID development agreement that came to council. There was supposed to be a reserve put into place for $436,000. This is for the future improvements of Route MM. And so we actually created a new trust fund so that that money will not be touched, and you could clearly see it on the financials. So basically, the total unrestricted cash across all the funds in the city was $8,473,000. When I say unrestricted, it still means that if they are in a special fund, they still have to be for that purpose, but overall, they're not designated to something at the moment. The wastewater, we did transfer and build up their capital improvement reserve. This is because we're going to transfer that money out to meet 2021 budget needs of the engineering for the wastewater plant. Basically, we did not end up spending it last year, so we went ahead and moved it over. And then we set up designated accounts in the debt fund so you could clearly see those future payment funds sitting there for Miller and Walmart, as well as the police infill. So you'll be able to track for yourself that that money's still there and secure for the future payments. So those are the changes on your cash report. So our target for the end of the year is 100. So going from that, we actually were above our revenue of 103% on the general fund. This is including the fact that we were under budget on our property taxes. We had 93% of our expenses. We were 94% on revenue on the street fund and 71% of our expenses. And then on the water fund, we were at 89% of revenue and 94% of expense. We did have quite a few people, their accounts towards the end of the year have become delinquent. Some of them are now getting caught back up after that second stimulus bill. And then on the wastewater fund, it's 110% of revenue, but I would like to mention that is not all revenue from customers. That is a reimbursement for the sale of the final, the last property phase of the Drury Lane, the Garden Business Park. And then 73% of expense, and that is basically because we ended up not spending that full amount on the engineering. That's that $1 million and $45,000 of surplus revenue that has been moved to that fund that we talked about earlier. Oops. The parks, I don't know if you remember, for most of the year, they were in a deficit position. They've caught back up. They got 93% of their revenue in, which is really good considering COVID. They were at 88% of expenses. That was a lot of expense cutting on their part during the summer. And so they did end up the year at $168,000. And then the financial sustainability, we talked a lot about it during the year, but the plan is now completed. We are in a financially secure place right now. If something was to change, we would probably reinstitute something, but for right now, we're not tracking it in that way anymore. We did not have to utilize that account like we discussed. And then the real property tax for December was not received until January. Most of you are aware of the Greene County issue, but we did receive our December check, so it's in the bank now. Basically, just a few more little side notes. Let's see. We did approve in December, we did, the public safety salary increases did go into place, and so they are now in effect. So basically, we ended the year very well. January, we will see, but those financials so far, we've gotten, like I said, the money we were waiting from Greene County. So other than that, we'll present that at the next meeting unless you have questions.
Do we have any questions from council? Mr. Silva?
Not so much a question, just a statement. Last year, with so many unknowns, and looking at those slides, it's outside of the water being above 100%. All of our expenses were below in every category. Not that that's any, indication of the water department or anything, but to all the department heads, the employees, everybody involved, just a huge thank you on watching your, the expenses and making the cuts that we had to make to make sure that we, came through 2020 peacefully, I guess. So, just a big thank you to everyone involved.
Anyone else? Thank you. Moving on to reports from staff, Mr. Cameron.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We are a growing city, and so I would tell you that I can sit there and spend probably the next 20 minutes giving you an update of everything that's going on. I would encourage you that the administrator's update has a lot of useful information, but I want to hit some highlights tonight because obviously there's a lot of development going on MM Highway, and with that, there have been a number of discussions that continue to work in our favor, but at the same time, it's very challenging, but it's a great problem to have, I guess you could say. But we've been meeting with MoDOT probably every other week via Zoom, working on, and we've been doing this for quite a while. So this is not just some last minute we've been working to navigate it. we're continuing to see a lot of interest and a lot of opportunity on the NM corridor as well as on US 60. So we, just to give you an update, is Amazon's, their design for their traffic improvements are currently with MoDOT. I believe we're getting near the final stages of approval. The plan was to hopefully be under construction for those improvements about this time. There's obviously, it's not our project and the timeline that we have to keep, but I'm pretty certain they'll keep their timeline for getting it done. But you will begin to start to see the improvements for their impact of the development. So just to be clear for the community, anyone that's watching this or listens or goes back and looks at this, Amazon is not fixing all of them in. They're working on only their impact to the development. So from Farm Road 160, which is the very south end of the property, all the way to James River 360 westbound, there'll be a traffic signal there. So that is pretty much the scope of the work that you'll see the improvements on from there. It's about $4.5 million. But we continue to work with MoDOT on the overall corridor, if you will, from I-44 to actually now we've extended that all the way down to Republic Road and ZZ. So we're actually seeing movement and development that is impacting the development all the way to ZZ. So we have got to do a very good job of working with them, and we've been very diligent, they've been very diligent to find what is the best path for long-term, how to navigate that traffic, to have that corridor and a thoroughfare through there. The challenge is going to be, we've got development going on at the present time and getting right-of-way secured, things of that nature, environmental studies. There's just a lot of discussion going on. And so we began to have a discussion today to engage Federal Highway involved into the conversation because of just the scope. And we are providing them routine updates, like we do with the school district. For years, we provided the school district updates of all the developments that's taken place so that they could have an idea. And now what we're seeing is we're also providing that same information to the Highway Department, Highway Transportation, just to show this is not speculation development, this is actually happening. And so it's going to have impact on that transportation system. What is the, can you, just by transportation number, I apologize, I didn't put it in my notes. What did we do, I don't want to provide this slide, but what's the total traffic number counts that we've anticipated now in the next 5 years is just what we know?
If you look at the whole system, so not one road in particular, 30,000 new trips a day.
On MM?
On MM, probably more like 19 to 20,000.
So right now that's at 4,500 to 5,000 trips per day right now. So that's what we know. So what I would say that is there's going to have to be a lot of partnerships, and we've had conversations with, like I said, bi-weekly with OTO, MoDOT, the Springfield Chamber, is engaged in these conversations, participated, the Department of Economic Development, the governor's office has been notified. It's not a secret. So we've been working on this quite a bit. So I just want to make sure that we're letting everyone know, as you may or may not recall, and we've got a lot of discussion of development in this room, this chamber, whatever chamber we're in, is you authorized, or we communicated that we had spent $25,000. I believe we did that in, I apologize, I'm missing the date now. It was in late fall. And we spent that money, come up with a cost estimate of about $4.4 million to widen MM from 360 to I-44 to 3 lanes to all the way out to I-44. Since that time was last week, we submitted that, we followed up with a discussion. Now we've expanded that scope, so I authorized an additional $14,000 last week to expand that to a 5-lane road. And so, because you have to purchase all the right-of-way, do all the environmental, and when you start looking at those increases, the first transportation plan was a 20-year plan consideration. So basically, that's going to get pretty much blown apart the first 5 years. So we're being proactive, working with MoDOT, and so why we had to act expeditiously. So I would almost consider this like an emergency expenditure that I normally probably reported before. But there is what we call the Statewide Transportation Improvement Program. We call it STIP. There's other programming that's taking place right now. So they worked almost on an emergency basis to update those cost estimates for a 5-lane road. I believe that's just for that section of road. But anyway, we are working diligently with MoDOT to communicate, work with them, and I think they've really started to recognize that even the southern portion is going to have to be considered in the overall scope. It cannot just be from James River to I-44. We got to consider what's going to happen. What was to MM and 60, which is now scoping all the way out to ZZ for other potential development. So I want to applaud the staff, I want to applaud MoDOT, those that have been involved from DBD, Ryan Moody, everyone that's been participating to help try to bring all this together. There's just a lot going on, and we're going to have to continue to communicate this with the community, because this is the one thing I'll say about MoDOT. Through all the complaints and challenges that you have with government agencies and where we are in government, sometimes I think they take a bad rap, and sometimes we're probably a little bit hard on ourselves. But considering the amount of resources they have to work on this project and how much got dropped into this, they are putting a lot of resources of their time and expediting a lot of things. I'd love to see them have about 5 or 6 more engineers on this project. They just don't have the resources to do it. And we have to recognize that. Sometimes I think people might miss that, like, you know, why can't they move faster, or why is this taking so long? I think a lot of it has to do with, just like it is for us, we're finding the stretch right now in our own organization with all the development that's going on and how that's stretching our resources. We just put a big project in MoDOT's lap, and we didn't want to just leave them there, so I feel like that staff is doing a pretty good job of also helping MoDOT to help ourselves. So I wanted to give that update. The next, but I also want to communicate that we have allocated $14,000 of unbudgeted funds that we did not have originally planned to expedite to get to a 5-lane cost estimate. With that, the transportation needs, I want to thank everyone that submitted comments to MoDOT. My theme is transportation tonight, because I think it's probably the biggest challenge that faces this community other than public safety needs. But I want to thank everyone that submitted comments. I want to believe that there was, out of the overall area, we represented 35% of those comments. I would have loved to see about 500. I think I mentioned that. We got about 45. We are going to put together a transportation publication that we're pulling together, that Mike is working on, kind of like we did with the sewer publication last year. It's going to outline the needs, it's going to outline opportunities and resources, but it's also going to include some phone numbers and email addresses, because we've got to continue to push our community, because if we don't, no one will. And so it's important that it's not just the city writing these letters to get that done. So looking forward to that publication. So with that, transferring into more transportation, I want to thank MoDOT for the 174 and 60 interchange. I think that turned out very well. I want to thank them for their continued effort to research. We are partner on a $550,000 study for US 60. That process continues to move forward. So they are a good partner. They recognize what's going on in the community. And I'll tell you, with all those traffic counts, it's a lot of opportunity for us to address. But we ourselves as a community have a number of transportation needs that we have to address. Hines and ZZ, 174 in Maine. People ask us about how we're going to take care of our side streets. So we've got a lot of discussion to take place. And so with that, on February 25th, tentatively, I would like to schedule a council work session to talk about what the most pressing needs are moving forward. And that is going to be public safety, which is without a doubt something we have got to bring back up to the table. We brought it up last year. Unfortunately, due to COVID, we could not really pursue. It just would have not been healthy to pursue a ballot initiative of any kind to address that in the middle of a pandemic. But we need to bring those issues up. We need to talk about it. We would like to get your feedback. We need to talk about the transportation system, because there is $600,000 of our transportation money tied up in public safety right now that we can't really even partner on the governor's cost share program to participate. So we're going to have to address that. We've got 2 parks issues that are going to be expiring, and our park system is being taxed. And we've got another additional projects that we're doing. Our facilities. We are also looking at possibly a land acquisition to help with the MM to secure possible right-of-way to make sure. So we're going to bring some of that to your attention for discussion to protect the future of the corridor. So just tentatively mark your calendar for that. I promise it will not be all day.
Like, do you have a time frame?
It's from 8:30 in the morning to 12:30. We will provide lunch if you want it, but we're not going to keep you here all day. And again, we will probably record it so that if you cannot make it, you can watch it. But this is more of a situation where we're wanting to make sure we provide an opportunity to get your feedback as to what you believe is the best path forward. What we're going to provide is recommendations and ideas, but we want to hear about what you think that should look like and get your feedback. I think it'd be a great opportunity for us to discuss. And I'm looking for another one, because there's one piece that we talked about in the last council meeting in the employee handbook, which was the trust edge. At the next council meeting, we'll be providing you a book and some material that the staff has been provided, that we've been doing training with, on April 29th from 8:30 to 12:30. Again, it'll be 4 hours. We've got that program condensed from a day and a half. We got it down from a day and a half. Well, it's actually more of a day and a third to a day. And now we're gonna get to 4 hours for you all, so good luck. I'm not done.
When was that?
That's April 29th. Sorry. Lastly, we're going to be sitting out, 3 years ago, we did a citizen survey. We're going to be sitting that survey out again. Again, this is going to be a new budgeted item, but we need to get the community's input about what's going on in our ever-growing, things are moving quickly, and getting their feedback will be very important to us right now. Jennifer, great job tonight, Jennifer. 150-year celebration. So looking forward to seeing that. Jared's been working on this, working on that, on some work on pumpkin days. I think even with Have a Blast as part of all that overall planning. But we're gonna, according to Jared, we're gonna really go to town on this and working with, I believe, Mike on that project. Lastly, we are done. I guess we got executive. I want to thank Laura and Mike from June 2nd. I was thinking about this today. Since June 2nd, it looks like this thing goes on without a hitch. I walk in here at 5:30 and all this is set up. And Scott, everybody that participates to set all this up so that we could meet. Since June 2nd, we've been meeting in person. And I just want to tell you that our business continues to move forward, and I'm thankful that you all have chosen to be here and that we can meet and do those things. But I appreciate you guys getting out here. I see it on those Tuesdays, your doors are shut. I'm like, where'd they go? I'm like, that's because they're out of the building, setting it up and getting it ready for us to conduct business. And that's whether there's 3 agenda items or 13 agenda items. And so I just want to say thank you. I know it's difficult. The new council chambers will be done. We are talking about putting plexiglass in between until there's a little more level of certainty. We're ready to kind of get in that space. So we may be adding some additional safety features so that we can go ahead and get in there sooner rather than later, because for everybody has to set up, Scott, you included, everybody has to set this up and take it down. You make it look easy, but it's truly not. I know it takes away from there, but again, please read the admin report. There's a lot going on in our community. And I do hope for us to pull together another tour of the city of all the updates because it is changing. It's not the same tour that we gave back in October or whenever. There's a new one to give, and so looking forward to doing that for everyone. And yeah, Ryan, we'll get you the invite. Front row seat, so that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Anything from council? Seeing nothing, I will say as mayor, I'm really sorry for getting late. You guys know I get late, so I'm still beating myself up. All right, moving on to executive session. No further action other than announcing adjournment by the mayor shall take place after an executive session that is scheduled at the last matter on the agenda unless otherwise stated on the agenda or as allowed per RSMO 610.02 tonight. Number 1, RSMO 610.021.1, pending and/or potential litigation, closed session, closed vote, closed record. I need a motion and a second to go into executive session.
Motion, second.
Got a motion and a second, roll call vote.
Councilmember Franklin.
Aye.
Councilmember Updike.
Aye.
Councilmember Self.
Aye.
Councilmember Russell.
Aye.
Councilmember Dyckman.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilson.
Aye.
Councilmember Poole. Councilmember Mitchell.
Aye.
Motion carries 8-0. We will be in adjournment. 2-minute break.